I haven't had to write a Facebook ad in like 6 months. Instead, what I did was I trained AI how to write copy for all of the brands that I'm working with. And it is now able to write copy just as good as I do, if not better, and in a fraction of the time. And so in this video right here, I'm just going to show you exactly how I did it. And before you think this is just another GPT prompt, most prompts suck at this. And so what I've got is a really simple 3-step process. And if you will follow this process, you will be able to train AI to know your brand, to know your avatar, and to be able to write Facebook ads that convert. Really quick, if you don't know me already, my name is Brice, and I have been behind the scenes growing info and coaching companies for nearly a decade now. And so if you're into things like funnels and ads and automations and systems that scale these types of businesses, on this channel, I just share what I do with my clients every single day. And so if you're into that thing, hit subscribe. Now let's jump in. Now, depending on how you use AI, you either have a massive time saver on your hands or you're just getting a bunch of complete garbage. And so what we're going to talk about is really trying to find the sweet spot to make all this work. Because in my experience so far, full automation of anything is really hard. Meaning, like, if I expect that I'm just going to have a fully automated process that just spits out ads where I have to have no engagement, I have not seen anything that really makes that work. On the other side, if every time you go to do something with AI, whether that's like write ad copy or whatever it is, and you're starting in a prompt window where you just have to do a single prompt and you're like trying to do some master prompt to get something good out of it, I've also found that to be really inefficient and ineffective. So here's what I figured out. The way that we want to think about it is we want to think about it like training a new employee. So if you had like a brand new copywriter come into your business, you probably wouldn't sit them down in a chair and give them like 3 or 4 sentences about, you know, what you want them to do and who your ideal avatar is, and then expect them to crank out some really good copy. What you'd expect if you did that is probably some really bad stuff. Now, what you'd most likely do is you'd sit this person down and you'd have them go through some type of training where they're going to learn about your avatar, your offers, your brand, your methodology, the types of copy that have worked well for you in the past, like your winning campaigns, your winning landing pages, your winning ads. You would give them all of that. And then you would expect them to like come back with something okay. And you'd probably work with them through an iterative process of like, okay, go ahead and write me a few ads. Now you'd sit down, you'd say, okay, this is what you did good. This is what you did bad. Now let's go ahead and improve and iterate these. And then through a few processes of iteration, you would expect that they would do a good job. Now that's the exact same thing we want to do with AI. And depending on what tool you're using, there's different ways to do this, but it works in pretty much all of them. So if you're using Claude, which Claude has been hands down my favorite thing for copywriting, but if you're using Claude, you have this thing here called projects. ChatGPT, same thing. You would just build a custom GPT. In Gemini, we have gems. So these are like the same way that we can train our copywriter on all the stuff it needs to know. And then this other one over here, Get Poppy, that I really like we can come in here and just add a bunch of stuff. And it makes this really nice visual board. We can add ads that we want to rewrite and like stuff we want to model and all these things. So Get Poppy is a really, really cool one that I also really like. But let's go ahead and focus on Claude because Claude is just a really good one to use for copywriting that I have found. So knowing how you could set that up in any of the different ones, and we'll just use for this example Claude because I really like Claude. These 3 simple steps. The first thing is you need to train your AI copywriter on everything. So again, this is going to be like your avatar or your avatars. This is going to be your products. This is going to be your brand voice. This is going to be any like stories from you or the expert. This is going to be winning ads in the past. This could be losing ads in the past. This could be like any SOPs or processes you have. All of that stuff, we want to actually train AI so that it has all of this context, because that's really the biggest thing that I have seen makes a big difference, is giving it all the context that it needs in order to be able to write good copy without having to do a bunch of editing. And so this is what that actually looks like here in Claude. You can see like I've got information about who is our avatar. I've got information about our products. I've got stories that I can tell, like personal stories from me. I've got information about how to shift beliefs. I've got a whole training on copywriting here for Facebook ads. I've got different stuff on copywriting here. So like I've got a ton of information. Yeah, here's a whole like voice reference library with scripts and emails and everything that I've done and analysis so that it knows how to talk. All of this is in here along with a base prompt so that when I come in here to start having a conversation, I don't need a super prompt. Like it's got this prompt letting it know what its instructions are, and it's got all of this context that it can learn from. So now when I jump in here, I can really just have a casual conversation of like, hey, today we're going to be writing some new ads. Let me give you the ones that we've done best in the past, and then let's start working on the next step. And what I really like about this is, again, now we're never starting from scratch. And so I don't have to come back here and then re-prompt it with some super prompt about how to be a great copywriter. All of that is saved here in the system prompt where I have all of this stuff written down. And what I have seen is like a little trick is like, I will have one of these for every type of copy for every brand that we're working with. So I used to try to do like just one general copywriter, but definitely what I've seen is like the more we can train and give it context on specific roles is better. So like I've got a bunch of Facebook ad copywriting training in here. For my email one, I've got a bunch of email training. For like sales pages, I got sales copy training. So that's been like one really good tip that's been helping me be able to make this work. Now, this next tip is probably one of the most important ones, because if you just go straight into trying to get it to write copy, a lot of times what you'll get is just like a regurgitation of what you already have. And so what I like to do at this stage is give it the top performing copy from the last couple of weeks. And I will say, look, here's our best winning copies. Here's our losing copies. So like, here's what worked, here's what didn't, pick 3 or 4 from each. And then say, can you analyze those? And then give me ideas for new ad angles and ad ideas. And then what this will do is give you like fundamentally different things that you can think about in ways to approach your ad copy. Because again, what we want to avoid is just like regurgitating what we have and just kind of rewriting the same ad in a different way. So let's go back to an example of like, let's say you've got some kind of like e-com coaching offer. I've been using that a bunch. If you have an e-com coaching offer, I think I have some ideas for you. But let's say you've got like an e-com coaching offer, and what you've seen is your best ads are like talking about revenue numbers. So you're like, hey, you can't break past, $50K a month consistently, here's an offer for you. And like, that's the angle that ad is taking. What we might see AI come up with is just like a bunch of new angles on like, shit UGC creatives is taking too much time to get. Maybe we could do one about like struggling to get enough creatives for your account. Maybe you could do one about like super low AOV in the checkout process. Because like all of these are just like different pain points or like problems that someone might have that would be a different way to think about approaching this. Maybe you're having like payment processing issues, if this is something you could help people with. Or maybe you want to go after like a different avatar. Maybe you like are really good at helping beginners with 2 R's, I think. So it's like can't find winning products, or like can't get enough money for ads, and you have like some organic method that you teach. I don't know, like obviously you don't want to write ads about stuff that you can't help people with, but the idea here is to come up with lots of different angles. So you've got like different pain points that you're speaking to and like different issues that someone might be having. So you're not just rewriting the same ad in a different way. And then you've got like maybe even different avatars that you're speaking to. So like people are at different stages in their journey of the problems that you can help them solve. Maybe you want to talk to more advanced people. Maybe you want to talk to more beginner people, depending on who you see as best for your offer. But like, this is where we can get the AI to come up with lots of ideas that we can test before we start asking it to write everything. And this is where I've seen that we can get like the most diversity out of what we're doing with this. And then the last step is like ask it to rewrite your winning ad with these new angles. So give it your top ad, have it rewrite it with that new angle, and expect that you're going to use the 10-80-10 principle for this. So the 10-80-10 principle is something that I think Dan Martell came up with when he was talking about like delegating to actual employees, but it also works really well with AI. And what we can expect is like, we want to give the idea and the structure in the beginning for the outcome that we want. In this case, writing really good winning ads, and we're giving it all the context and everything that needs in the project. We want it to do the heavy lifting where it's going to write 80% of the copy. And then we're expecting that we're going to come in at the last 10% and like do the final touches. This is again where I've seen like a lot of attempts for full automation to fail is like, if you have no interaction, you usually just get a bunch of recycled garbage that like has a bunch of AI sounding stuff. And as much as we can try to use like the rules and the context and the projects in order to like get AI to not sound like AI, a lot of times it does anyways. And so if we expect that we're going to come in and like polish these off, that's been a really good way to like set expectations and make this work in the sense that AI is going to do most of the heavy lifting, and then you just kind of have to come in at the end and do a little bit of the final editing to make it sound really good. The reason why I have seen this work is because when I look at our ad accounts, and particularly when we're selling like high ticket offers, what I see is like the actual ad that we're running, pretend this is our Facebook ad. The actual ad that we're running is pretty much the same framework, just repeated over and over again. What I see changing that is working is like, This part right up here, so like our hook, our first sentence that's bringing somebody in, our little agitation where we're speaking about the problem, and then like a little bit about the discovery story where we're kind of tweaking our expert story more specific to the avatar and like where they're at in this stage. But it's like, this is how the hook and the agitation changes. It's like we're speaking to different problems that people have. And then, you know, maybe with the discovery story, we're changing a little bit like how we're framing our expert story in terms of like when they were a beginner or when they're more advanced or whatever it is, depending on who we're trying to speak to. The rest of this stuff is pretty much the same. So it looks like we have tons of different ads, and we are speaking to a bunch of different problems people have, but we're all making them the same offer to get to the next page. And so that's why I see this work really well. When you do this right, like what you end up with is if you just got your best ads, but they're reframed with like new angles, new pain points, and speaking to, you know, different avatars or different stages of the avatar's journey, so that you have a lot of diversity in your ads based on winning frameworks. And AI has been great at spitting these things out, and they are working extremely well for us. So that's it. Definitely give this a shot. Again, going through that 3-step framework again, it's like you want to train it on everything. So we want to use like a project, or if you're using ChatGPT, a custom GPT, or Gem and Gemini, or just use Get Poppy and upload all your stuff there. That's a great way to do it. You want to train your writer on everything. You want to ask for angles and ideas and analysis before you get into asking it to just rewrite things right away. Because again, what that does is help it, like I've just seen that keeps you from just recycling the exact same thing over again, but you're actually getting different ideas. And then the last thing is ask it to rewrite it, giving it your winning ads, and then asking it to use that same framework, but with these different angles and ideas. That's what we've seen working really well. Again, to get started, like at a minimum, just make sure you're training your project with like your avatar, your brand voice, about your products, and then about your winning ads. Bonus would be like SOPs, trainings, anything else that you have that can teach it how to do really good copy for that specific role. So that's it. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you want my help with all this, I have a link down in the description below to my mentorship program, where I am helping business owners that have coaching programs and high ticket offers. Also the marketers that work with those people. I'm helping them every day implement systems like this in their business. I also have a ton of other videos on this channel about this kind of stuff. So if you want to learn more about this stuff, I've got tons and tons of videos for you to check out. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, because it really does help me make more videos like this, and it tells me what you guys like. So please like, subscribe, drop any questions down in the comments below. Otherwise, would love to catch you in another video here soon, and have a good one.